Hello, this is your Bible teaching program with your Bible teacher Brian Johnston. It's called Search for Truth, and we continue to consider the place called Zion in our Search for Truth study this time. I'm delighted you can join us, and thank you for tuning in. This is the fourth study program today, as I said, on the study of worship. The whole 10-week series is called the Songs of Zion, and this time Brian's looking into the scriptures and linking worship of earth and worship of heaven. If you've got your Bible handy, Brian will be referring to Psalm 48 and Isaiah chapter 14 in today's study. And here is Brian now.
Thanks, John. In the second half of the 19th century, a Zionist society was founded in order to promote the idea of Jews resettling in the land of Palestine. At that time, most Jewish people lived in Eastern Europe. While there, they set about reviving the old Hebrew language. A man called Eliezer ben Yehuda was instrumental in this. He introduced it into his own home, even though his wife objected that she couldn't even say, "I love you" in that language. She was told she would just have to learn. It was largely due to this man's efforts that a generation of Jews was born which spoke Hebrew again as its old mother tongue. Then in 1897, Theodor Herzl organized the first Zionist Congress. It was held in Switzerland, and he claimed at that time to have effectively established the Jewish state, something which he predicted would be recognized by all within 50 years. His optimism would prove to be well-founded when Israel was granted independence in 1948, and the rest, as they say, is history. Around the same time as this Zionist movement was getting underway, a group of Christians towards the close of the 19th century also had the highways to Zion on their hearts, but this time in a spiritual sense. Both movements were movements of rediscovery. The one was about re-establishing geographical Zion, the other was concerned with rediscovering the truth about spiritual Zion, and it was bound up, of course, with the use of the word Zion in our Bibles, as we, for example, find it used in Psalm 48. "Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in his holy mountain. Beautiful in elevation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great King. God is in her palaces, he is known as her refuge." Glorious things are spoken of Zion, the city of God. It's set on his holy mountain, and it's beautiful in elevation. The joy of the whole earth, that's Mount Zion, on the sides of the north. Curious expression that, isn't it? The sides of the north. Let me turn up another place in the Bible where that same expression is found. It's in the prophet Isaiah and chapter 14, where from verse 4 we read, "Take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased. How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." I hope you'll agree with me that the prophet's message contains references that can apply to some being in heaven who is being addressed under the figure of the king of Babylon. Here on earth was a proud, arrogant king whom God was going to judge, and God uses him as a vehicle for revealing to us his judgment against the pride of some supernatural power. The pride of such a one in setting himself up as God's adversary had been to say to himself, "I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north." There's that linking expression, the sides of the north. We recall how Psalm 48 had used it to describe geographical Zion on earth. In other words, the psalmist was describing Jerusalem on earth, the Jerusalem city of his day, But as we are on the point of discovering, there's more to this name Zion than meets the eye at first glance. We say that because by comparing the wording of Psalm 48 and the wording of Isaiah chapter 14, we can see that there's something in heaven, something in the very presence of God, of which Zion on earth must be a kind of reflection. You find this is confirmed from many different Bible verses other than this one in Isaiah 14 alone. But Isaiah 14 does picture for us God's own throne in heaven. The scene is that of God's holy hill above as being his seat of government and the true centre of worship, and it's spoken of as situated on the sides of the north, which is but one feature that links this heavenly Zion to its earthly counterpart. It's as though God's purpose had been to see his heavenly dwelling place mirrored on earth. There's more than a hint then that this city of Zion, which the Bible talks about, is also, in its fullest sense, a heavenly city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God, the very outline of which, as perceived with the eye of faith, was a constant source of wonder and joy to godly men and women. It's a city in heaven, yes, but one which in a sense casts its shadow on earth. The city of Zion on earth was, and will still be into the future, a shadow, a representation of the real city in heaven where God dwells. God's love for Zion above, Zion in heaven where his will is done, is such that as we are discovering from our Bibles, it's led him to desire a representation of it on this earth in every age, including in the future when Christ will reign and be acknowledged as supreme. We've already learnt that Zion is the dwelling place of God. God dwells above, of course, in the heavenly Zion, but in every age his desire has been to come and dwell also on this earth among men and women whom he has brought together to do his will on earth as it is done in heaven. In every age, earthly Zion, whether a geographical city or otherwise, is modelled on the ultimate reality that's found in heaven itself. And this earthly representation can only be enjoyed collectively by those who take the Lord's commands seriously and give effect to them. To see the truth of that last point, we only need to remember what happened to the nation of Israel and to the city of Jerusalem, or Zion, in Old Testament times. When they failed to obey and refused God's warnings and even his pleadings, God had no alternative but to use the Babylonians to discipline his people by taking them away captive for a while. But we can see from the prophet Isaiah, when either the Assyrians or the Babylonians began to think too much of themselves because of their victory over Israel, God was well able to deal with them too and cut them right down to size. But coming back again to this thrilling and totally biblical idea of the earthly dwelling place of God being modelled in every age on the ultimate reality that's found in heaven itself, whether that earthly representation is a physical city or some spiritual representation as it is today, it follows that there will be features of God's earthly dwelling place which are common in every age in which men and women have served God. That's because what's on earth in each age is a copy of something that's unchanging in heaven. And perhaps that's why the psalmist continued in Psalm 48 by saying this: "Let Mount Zion rejoice, let the daughters of Judah be glad because of your judgments. Walk about Zion and go all around her. Count her towers, mark well her bulwarks, consider her palaces, that you may tell it to the generation following. For this is God, our God forever and ever. He will be our guide, even to death." That makes me think, among other things, of Paul's words to Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 2, "And the things that you have heard from me among many witnesses, commit these to faithful men who will be able to teach others also." That's verse 2, linking with what we read in Psalm 48, "Tell it to the generation following." On this voyage of discovery, As I invite you to walk the pilgrim ways to Zion with me, I hope to share with you several of these features of Zion's mirror image on earth, features which mark it out in every age and serve to draw our thoughts upward to the original and eternal dwelling place of God above, and even to God himself, of whom I trust that you too can say with the psalmist that he is your God forever and ever, and your guide even to death.
Come live at love the Lord, and let your joys be known. Join in a song with sweet accord, join in a song with sweet accord, and march around the throne, and march around the throne. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. Let those refuse to sing who never knew our God, but children of the heavenly King, but children of the heavenly King, must feel the joys of spread, the joys abroad. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. The hill of Zion yields 1,000 sacred streets before we reach the heavenly fields, before we reach the heavenly fields. Oh, walk the golden streets, oh, walk the golden streets. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God.
I hope you enjoyed today's study. I know I did. And if you're following this series of studies, there's a book available containing this complete series on the subject of worship. If you'd like one, you can download it free of charge at churchesofgod.info/media. Alternatively, you could write to us and ask for a hard copy book be posted to you. Just ask for the book title, The Songs of Zion 2024, and be sure to tell us your postal address, please. You can use email or you can use the post. And first, here's our postal address. Search for Truth, Hayes Press, The Barn, Flaxlands, Royal Wootton Bassett, Swindon, SN4 8DY UK. Our email address is sft@churchesofgod.info. And by the way, did you know that by going to www.searchfortruth.podbean.com, you can download the programs onto your own device and listen to them again at some more convenient time. Now, time's almost gone, and I'm delighted you've kept me company today. Thanks for giving me your time. But next time, Brian's called his study Future Worship, and I'd be delighted if you could join me again. But for now, it's goodbye and very best wishes from your Bible teacher Brian, studio producer David, our singers, and me, John. So do take care. We'll see you again soon, and in the meantime, we wish you God's richest blessings.
Then let our songs abound, and every tear be dried. We're marching through